And it's Friday, so it being Friday in our first hour, it is Brunch with Bernie. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. And Bernie, you're in the Senate, and you have a special guest on the phone.
I do. Tom, we don't often do this, but I wanted to bring a special guest on with us this afternoon because I think that as we look at the right-wing Republican House and know how difficult it is for the Congress now to protect ordinary working people, do the right thing environmentally, protect women's rights and so forth, it's important to look at what's happening at the statewide level. And I'm very proud that in my state, we have one of the most progressive governors in America, if not the most progressive governor, Peter Shumlin. And I wanted to bring Peter on the program today to talk a little bit about what progressive government can be doing at the state level. Peter, thanks for being with us.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be on. Thanks for inviting me.
Peter, let me just throw the question to you. At a time when we have right-wing control over the House, we have big money playing such a huge role in the political process, what is the state of Vermont doing to stand up for the values that so many Americans believe in?
Well, you know, we're doing some things here, Bernie, with your support and your help that are just not being done in other states. The first is we are passing and implementing the first sensible single-payer healthcare system in America, where healthcare is a right and not a privilege, where it's publicly financed, where it follows the individual. As a resident of the Green Mountain State, you will have Green Mountain healthcare, full coverage, benefits, and publicly financed. And, you know, really it's being driven by two forces. One, we all know that we spend more money on healthcare in this country by 200, 300, 400 times than most of the other industrialized countries that we compete with for jobs and economic development. Yet we know that the rising cost of healthcare is unsustainable and that we have too many residents who make horrid choices every single day about where they work, what they do, where they move, because of a need to have access to quality healthcare. So it's the right thing to do. It's an upward battle for the simple reason that our friends in special interests, I should say, in Washington did a pretty good job of precluding governors like me from passing single payer until 2017 when they passed the Affordable Care Act. But we will be ready in 2017 for the first sensible healthcare system in America. And as you know, with your leadership, we're making huge progress on not only energy efficiency, where we really lead the country in energy efficiency, but also in moving to renewables, getting off our addiction to oil. And we're seeing huge job growth as a result of it. We now have more green, clean jobs in Vermont per capita than any other state in the country. So we're putting together what I call the first sensible energy policy that's going to ensure that our kids and grandkids have a better chance of surviving in a climate in a planet that is challenged by climate change, which I think is our greatest challenge that we face.
Right. Let me just jump in and say to listeners that what Governor Shumlin is talking about is not only of great importance to the state of Vermont, my state, but it is of enormous importance to the country, because I believe that, in fact, as the governor just stated, if we can in Vermont put together a strong, cost-effective, single-payer healthcare system which guarantees healthcare to all people, the other 49 states will be looking at what Vermont did, and they're going to want to follow us. So this is not just an issue for Vermont, it's an issue for America. And I think the second point that the governor made about energy is also of enormous consequence. It is incomprehensible to me that at a time when the scientific community, the scientists who study this issue, believe that global warming is the greatest threat to this entire planet, we have a majority party in the House of Representatives who more or less believes that global warming is a hoax and that we're doing virtually nothing to transform our energy system. So I think, as the governor indicated, states like Vermont, California, other states that understand the importance of transforming our energy system are leading the way in helping to cut greenhouse gas emissions, but also, as the governor indicated, he might want to pick up on this point, creating jobs. Peter, what are we doing in terms of job creation by transforming our energy system?
Well, they're absolutely linked, and I keep saying, Bernie, I know you agree with me that, in my view, there's two challenges. The first is, because we're a cold state and because we have such stark four seasons, I keep saying the cold states are going to see the effects of climate change perhaps before some of the other states in this country, and that's why we have such a heightened awareness here. We've had extraordinary storms. Irene wiped out, we lost 7 Vermonters. We lost this Hurricane Irene. We lost, hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure, roads, bridges. We lost homes. We lost businesses. That's one example of our climate change affecting our state. So Vermonters, regardless of political party, recognize things have changed drastically in the last 20, 30 years because of our emissions. But I think the second point is, because we're harnessing the wind and the sun and our forests and our streams to biomass and small hydro, everything possible, combined with energy efficiency, we are emerging from this recession faster than other states. Vermont now has the distinction of having the lowest unemployment rate this side of the Mississippi. We have the fastest growth rate of any of the Northeast states. And in 2011, Vermont was the only state in America who actually saw income growth after a decade of working Americans seeing stagnant incomes, one of the biggest challenges we face. So the answer really is that not only is it the right thing to do, but those states, those governors, if Congress, if that right-wing House of yours could get their act together, those that get there first are going to get the economic prosperity. I believe the transformation from an oil and coal-driven economy to one that uses renewables and alternative energy is going to make the tech boom and the industrial revolution look small. Huge economic opportunity as we do the right thing.
Peter, say a few words on Vermont's tradition and what we're doing now in terms of a non-discriminatory society and our belief in human rights.
Well, the only reason that Vermont can have the good judgment of having a senator as great as Bernie Sanders is because we've always combined good common sense, what I call pragmatic fiscal caution. We pay our bills on time, with a sense of social justice. And it goes way back in our state. We were the first state to abolish slavery. We were the first state to pass publicly funded public education. We were the first state, we invented civil unions, frankly, and the first state to pass marriage equality legislatively, not because a court and judges told us to do it, but because we knew it was the right thing to do. So it's a wonderful state, a great place for jobs. I think it's the best quality of life, best place to live, to work, to raise a family. But most importantly, we care about each other and taking care of each other in ways that you don't experience in other states. And I know that sounds kind of dreamy, but the fact of the matter is it's just true.
Well, we saw that. As I think many listeners know, Vermont was hard hit a year and a half ago with Hurricane Irene, and it did devastating damage to our small state. And the governor did a great job in helping to lead the state in rebuilding.